If you've been doing everything right, but your belly fat just won't budge, it's not willpower, it's definitely biology. Stubborn midsection weight, it is often visceral fat, and visceral fat responds directly to sleep, stress, hormones, and blood sugar, not just calories in and calories out, nor movement. Today I'm going to explain what's happening beneath that surface and talk about practical science-based strategies that actually work so you can stop fighting against your body and start working with your body. You may be frustrated because you have been eating right, you're hitting the gym and doing all that you know you're supposed to be doing, but that belly fat seems to have a mind of its own. Most people don't realize or misunderstand that with visceral fat, it's a different type of fat and it requires a different approach because it responds to different triggers. So it's not just about eating less and doing more cardio. It's about understanding what's going on with your body and finally having the tools to address it properly. There are actually 3 types of fat that we are dealing with. The subcutaneous fat is the fat that you can pinch, usually around your arms, your thighs, your back. You can pinch it. It's not harmful or dangerous, but it's very annoying, and usually it's the last fat to go when you're trying to lose weight. Brown fat is a fat that actually burns calories. In adults, it's mostly between the neck and the shoulders. It's metabolically active, but in a good way because it burns calories. The real problem, visceral fat. This one is the real problem because it is deep inside the abdomen, wrapped around your organs. You cannot pinch it, you cannot feel it, and you cannot see it. And that is why persons can carry a flat stomach and still have high levels of visceral fat. Why is this fat so dangerous? Visceral fat is dangerous because it's just sitting there. It is metabolically active and releasing a lot of chemicals and functioning like an organ in your body. So in other words, it's like a hormone factory. And it's continually pumping out inflammatory chemicals that spread inflammation throughout your body, stress hormones that keep your system in a constant state of alert, substances that interfere with insulin signaling, which makes blood sugar harder to manage, and the last one, free fatty acids that flow directly to your liver, affecting how it processes everything. Because visceral fat is metabolically active and constantly communicating with your brain and other organs, people with large amounts of visceral fat, these are the things that we experience. 1, brain fog and mental fatigue. Energy crashes, we have trouble sleeping, intense cravings, especially for sugar, mood swings and irritability, joint aches and pain. So it's not just something in your head. These are literally your fat active and talking to your brain and your body 24/7. That is why we experience all of these symptoms from time to time. It is important for us to control or reduce our visceral fat to try to get it from the high levels back down to normal levels. It's like a wake-up call for your health. Visceral fat increases the risk of serious health conditions such as type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and heart disease. And it's not just correlated with these conditions, it is actually contributing to them through the inflammatory chemicals that it's producing. The other reason why we need to reduce visceral fat: energy and mood. When you reduce your visceral fat, you will start to finally feel like yourself again. The constant fatigue, the brain fog, the mood swings, the irritability, all of those will be reversed when we are able to lower our levels of visceral fat, because you are removing that internal source of inflammation and stress hormones. how about sleep and recovery? Without enough sleep, we constantly have high levels of visceral fat because the body is constantly in a state of alert. Reducing visceral fat helps restore proper hormone balance throughout your body. This means better thyroid function, more stable blood sugar, improves sex hormones, and healthier stress. So your body isn't just holding on to belly fat to spite you, it is actually trying to protect you. But understanding why this happens is the way to finally letting it go. Visceral fat doesn't just accumulate on its own because it wants to spite you. It's actually responding to specific signals that is telling the body to store protective energy around the midsection. So we're going to talk about the 4 drivers that impact visceral fat. And the first one is stress. The higher your stress levels, the more visceral fat builds up and the more your midsection expands. Your body releases cortisol in response to stress because, and don't get me wrong, because stress is normal. You can't avoid it. But there are different types of stress and the body does not know the difference. So once the body recognizes that you're in a state of stress, it is going to release cortisol and keep the body in a state of alertness in trying to protect you. So let's say, for example, you are being attacked, you're being robbed, you're in a motor vehicle accident. Immediately your stress levels are going to elevate, and that's okay because you won't be in that state forever. After a while your levels will normalize. So when you have stress that is related to work, family, maybe you're constantly dieting, and relationship stress, whatever level of stress that is due to everyday lifestyle, your body doesn't know the difference between that stress and a real situation that is causing your body stress. So because you are constantly in that mode, then your body is constantly in a fat storage mode, and that is what accumulates into visceral fat. The second driver is blood sugar dysfunction. Every time you eat, the body releases insulin, especially in response to high sugary foods. If you're constantly eating throughout the day, your insulin levels are going to be constantly high. And high insulin is like a lock on your fat cells. And when you have that lock on your fat cells, it literally prevents your body from burning fat. It encourages the body to store fat. And where do you think that fat is stored? Here, around the midsection. So every time that your blood sugar spikes and crashes, it triggers more insulin to be released. So over time, the body is going to become less and less sensitive to insulin, and then your visceral fat levels just stay elevated because the body will not be burning fat. Number 3, this one is like so important, and that is sleep. When you don't get enough sleep, several things gonna happen. Your cortisol levels are gonna stay high because the body is interpreting a lack of sleep as stress. Your hunger hormones are gonna go haywire. Your cravings the next day are gonna be out of control. And so your body gets stuck in that fat storage mode, constantly trying to protect your energy. And even one night of poor sleep can impact fat storage accumulation. Number 4, hormonal shifts. As we age, our hormones begin to shift naturally. And this shift makes it easier for the body to store fat around the midsection. For women in perimenopause or menopause, As estrogen levels decline, fat storage around the midsection accumulates more, and it becomes easier for the body to store fat around the midsection. This is why some women see changes around their midsection as they age, even without doing anything to gain weight. So your weight remains the same, but you just notice this part of your body is becoming thicker. And it's the same for men, when their testosterone levels begin to fall, they begin to store fat around the midsection also. That's why you often hear the term about bare belly. But this is where things get interesting, because visceral fat, it gets really frustrating because it actually produces its own hormones that make you hungrier and more likely to store belly fat. It is a self-perpetuating cycle that keeps you trapped. The more visceral fat you have, the harder it is to lose it. That's why addressing the root causes is so much more effective than just trying to eat less and exercise more. You have to break the cycle. So, who are the persons most susceptible to visceral fat? Anybody can develop visceral fat, but certain factors increase the risk to a higher level. Number one, life stage factors. Women in perimenopause and menopause are going to be more affected because of the declining estrogen levels and changes in your hormone that promotes fat storage around the midsection. So a lot of women who have never struggled with weight before their 40s or before hitting perimenopause are now having to deal with. All of a sudden, they are starting to get, their waistline is expanding and they are having this high stomach, which is an indication of high visceral fat levels. If you have insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, or a family history of type 2 diabetes, you're at a higher risk. Your body is actually primed to store fat around the midsection because of how it processes blood sugar. Women who are in perimenopause and menopause are also prone to high levels of visceral fat due to the declining levels of estrogen. You will have a lot of women who have never struggled with belly fat now all of a sudden finding it appearing during this transition and having to deal with it. Our lifestyle also affects our risk levels. If you have a sedentary lifestyle with little to no movement, that's going to impact you because movement affects blood sugar and blood sugar affects visceral fat. Poor sleep quality also affects visceral fat because it then causes the body to stay in that mode of constant stress and stores belly fat. The other one is alcohol consumption, and I hope no one here is at risk because of alcohol consumption, because it's directly related to visceral fat. And how do you tell if you have visceral fat before you even go to a medical practitioner? There's a simple measurement test that you can perform at home. You just need a tape measure. Measure your waist. So women, if you have a waistline over 35 inches and men over 40 inches, it is an indication of high visceral fat levels. So that's a simple one that we can take on. Here's the good news. It doesn't always have to be about fat storage. We can reverse that to start burning visceral fat. So now that you understand how you're actually dealing with visceral fat, we're going to look at what actually works to get rid of that stubborn belly fat. And the first one, we have 5 strategies here. Number one, fix your sleep. Poor sleep is like pouring gasoline on the belly fat fire. When you don't get enough quality sleep, your cortisol levels spike, your hunger hormones go haywire, and your body gets stuck in fat storage. So we have to make that effort to start improving our sleep. If you're only getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep, start by improving that with increments of 30 minutes. So you aim to get an additional 30 minutes next week, and you keep increasing that until gradually you are getting at least 7 hours of sleep. The other thing is to manage your stress response. Number 2, since chronic stress is the biggest driver of belly fat, learning how to manage your stress response is crucial. It does not mean you're eliminating stress from your life, because that's impossible. It means teaching your body how to recover from stress. So the moment you are faced with high stress, we intentionally do things to bring the body back to balance. Going for a walk, sit calmly for 5 minutes and just pause, deep breathing, journaling, anything to relax you, whatever makes you relax. It could be listening to music or just taking a short nap, but we have to bring strategies in to help the body come back to balance from stress. Number 3, time your meals strategically. Instead of eating constantly throughout the day, give your body breaks between meals. This allows your insulin levels to drop, which is essential for fat burning. So we are not talking about starvation. You're going to eat sufficient at each meal so that you don't need to snack in between meals. And then you try to have your meals within a 12-hour eating window, so that you could aim for 3 meals over that period, eating every 4 to 5 hours. That will allow sufficient time between meals for your insulin levels to gradually decrease and normalize. Number 4, choose foods that support fat burning. What are those? Focus on whole foods that don't spike your blood sugar. These foods help keep your insulin stable and provide nutrients your body needs to burn fat efficiently. So instead of the high sugary foods, highly processed foods, you want to convert to whole foods, foods that are minimally processed, foods that have little to no sugar. These will help to keep your insulin levels lower. And the last one, move in a way that targets visceral fat. So while you can't spot reduce fat, there are certain types of movement that are particularly effective for reducing visceral fat. And one of these is walking. The easiest one, walking. It's a low impact activity that supports fat burning. So the bottom line, let's read. Your belly fat isn't stubborn because you're not trying hard enough. It is stubborn because it is completely different type of fat that requires a different approach. Your body isn't holding on to belly fat to sabotage you. It is responding to signals, which are stress, blood sugar spikes, poor sleep, and hormonal changes. Your body is trying to keep you safe. So change the signals and your body will respond. When you address the root causes, cortisol levels become balanced and your body stops storing the emergency belly fat. Insulin sensitivity improves and fat storage shifts to fat burning. Sleep becomes restorable and your hormones now regulate properly. Your body finally feels safe, releasing that stored visceral fat. This is where we end today's video, which I hope you found it helpful. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and follow for more healthy lifestyle, weight loss, and nutrition tips. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one to help improve your nutrition and your weight loss, I can help you with that. The link is in my bio. Just send me a DM or drop the word help below and we'll be in touch. Thanks for watching. Please come back for more.